So I'm working on a handler for you. Don't worry. All right. Michael Page, we're going to try to sell it ourselves and see how things work out. You don't have to write down, I can appreciate and I can understand and da-da-da-da. Don't write that part down. You already know that. Hopefully by now you've mastered the rules of handling objections. So you don't need to write that down. So as I say it, once you hear me say and, that's what you write down. Everything I say after the word and. Because everything up to that point, you can do that on your own. You know how to handle objections. You know the rules of handling objections. So, Michael, I can certainly appreciate you want to sell it on your own and see how things work out. In fact, I probably wouldn't be against that myself if I was a seller right now, given how hot the market is. And are you aware that right now, 2/3 of real estate transactions don't make it to the closing table at the same price and terms as originally negotiated? Were you aware of that? Let me have you write that down again. By the way, you've heard me use this handler before. It can be used in different scenarios, right? You heard me use it when we were talking about a friend or family member in the business. Hey, Michael, I can appreciate you want to sell it on your own. I mean, gosh, the market's hot. Why wouldn't you? You can probably stick a sign in the yard, get a couple calls and maybe get lucky and sell it on your own. Remember, agreeing, smiling. By the way, they're thinking, what? This is different. An agent is actually agreeing with me about selling it on my own. That's something I haven't heard before. That's exactly why the rules of handling objections are so important and why they're effective, because then they start to tune in to what you're going to say after that. You agree. You disagree, you argue, you defend your position, they tune you out. So, hey, Michael, I can appreciate you want to try it on your own. For as hot as the market is, quite honestly, I don't blame you. And I'm curious, are you aware that right now, 2/3 of real estate transactions do not make it to the closing table at the same price and terms as originally negotiated? Were you aware of that? And I let them speak. Well, what do you mean? Why wouldn't they? Most for sale by owners, by the way, or expireds who become for sale by owners, are a little clueless to that. Well, there's a lot of reasons why that happens, but what I can tell you, Michael, is usually it's because the home doesn't appraise, it's because there's issues with financing, or it's because there's inspection issues, all of which require a professional to be involved in getting the home to a closing table. So usually, Michael, it's a couple things. It could be appraisal, it could be inspection, it could be financing, it could be buyers getting cold feet. We find that happens from time to time. All of those factors combined, Michael, lead up to over 66% of real estate transactions having to be renegotiated from the time the purchase agreement is signed to the time it gets to a closing table. Over 66% of real estate purchase agreements are renegotiated from the time you sign it, meaning you shake hands with the buyer, things feel good, they walk through, they love your home, you like them, you want them to have your home. You've got more than a 2/3 chance of something going wrong, something having to be renegotiated, something to have to change in that agreement. And my question, Michael, is how do you plan on handling that when that does take place? My question is, how do you plan on handling that when that does take place? Write that down. We know you're going to have to renegotiate. How do you plan on handling that? Now, you're asking them this question. It's somewhat of a rhetorical question. You know it's rhetorical. They don't. You're assuming that they don't know how to handle those issues, and the reality is 99 times out of 100 they don't. So how do you plan on handling finance issues? How do you plan on convincing a buyer? I'll actually give them specifics. How do you plan on convincing a buyer to pay over appraised value? How do you plan on convincing a buyer to overlook inspection issues? How do you plan on communicating and convincing a lender or a appraisal management company to maybe appraise your home for more? Have you thought about how you're going to do all that? And at this point in time, you can start to sense either it goes one of two ways. Either they might get kind of cocky with you, especially if they've only been on the market for a week or two, which most for sale by owners are the first week or two, or you'll start to almost hear, gosh, I hadn't realized that. They're not going to show all their cards to you. So they're not going to just come out and say, well, gee, I don't know. I guess I need to hire a realtor, right? We want them to say that, but they don't say that. So instead, I finish with this. Michael, at the end of the day, you're not hiring me or another professional realtor or another professional full-service, full-time realtor to find you a buyer. You don't need me to find you a buyer. Again, agreeing, smiling, I'm with you. You don't need me to find you a buyer. I mean, there's hardly any inventory. You put a sign in your yard, somebody's going to knock on your door. I believe that. Where my value comes in, Michael, is helping you get to the closing table. See, sellers who hire me, when they write reviews online or where they talk about their experience, Yeah, they talk about how they had 30 showings in the first 3 days and how the marketing was amazing. Of course, I'm kind of dropping subtle hints, and all the things we did to get people into their home. But that's not what they're excited about. What you'll find is most people who write reviews about us on Zillow, for instance, by the way, we've got over 1,000 reviews on Zillow. Most people who write reviews about us talk about the positive experience on the way to the closing table. They talk about how we were able to overcome inspection issues, finance issues, appraisal issues. So my value, Michael, isn't really in finding you a buyer. You can do that on your own. My value is getting you to the closing table. So let me ask you a question. I'll make you a deal. If you're able to find the buyer, I'd be willing to give you a substantial discount. Would you be open to having that conversation? It's no different than if you were to sell it on your own and hire an attorney. If you're able to find the buyer, I'd be open to giving you a substantial discount. Now, stepping out of the role play for a second, you're probably saying, Jeff, what are you doing cutting your commission already? Da-da-da-da-da. Well, by the way, I don't know whether I'm at the table with this person or over the phone. I'm just answering this off of an index card. So I'm just giving you scripts as they come to me. All right, but where I'm going with this is I don't mind signing an agreement with a seller that says if they're able to find the buyer, I'm willing to reduce the commission. Why is that? Well, because 99 times out of 100, they're not going to find the buyer. All right. And by the way, if you're wondering, well, Jeff, what do you charge in that case? Let me step back into the role play. Well, Jeff, what do you charge? We charge 1% per side. If you're able to secure the buyer and they don't have a real estate agent, all it costs you is 1% and all it costs them is 1%. Now, I'll tell you, Michael, is some sellers end up picking up that other point and paying the full 2%. So it's 1% per side. Why do you present it that way? Because 1% does not sound like a lot. I mean, in most average sales prices, $300,000, $250,000, 1% is $2,500. But what does sound like a lot is $5,000. So we say 1% per side. And sometimes, Michael, the sellers end up picking up the 1% for the buyer so the buyer doesn't have to pay anything. It's totally optional. That's totally up to you. It's something that we could maybe negotiate. Now, if they don't have an agent, I'm getting 2 points to handle the transaction. I was only guaranteed a minimum of 3 anyways, so sure, I'm giving up a point, and you might argue, yeah, but you're handling both sides of the transactions. Fine. If they found the buyer, I probably didn't do a lot to market the property, or it was probably early on in the process. All right, so that is how I present that to a for sale by owner. Great objection, Michael. Thank you for sharing that one, and let's go on to the next. This one is from Brad Phelps. Thank you, Brad, for the objections. If you can't tell me what your commission is over the phone, then there's no reason to come. I wanted to preface this with, know that this is probably coming from someone who you've set an appointment with and you're doing a pre-qual, or you're trying to close for an appointment, and let's say it's a for sale by owner or an expired or a database or whoever, it doesn't matter what the source is, and they want to know what you charge. Well, Brad, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and hopefully earn your business. And we do have a few programs to choose from, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to take a look at your home first. And the reason why I say that is because depending on the condition of your home and the marketing plan you choose, that will factor into the commission we have to charge. And sometimes a seller will want to pay more commission because they want to offer out more to the buyer's agent to convince them to show their home versus the competition. Now, many times, Brad, I'll recommend that we don't have to do that, or we should do that, depending on your price point, depending on your location, and depending on the condition of your home. So if it's all right with you, Brad, I really would like to take a look at your home first and see what we're working with before I go into that. But I promise you it'll be one of the first things we cover when I come out. Now, Brad, you're probably saying, but they still are going to push for it. Great. So let's say, well, Jeff, if you can't tell me what you charge over the phone, don't even bother coming out. Well, Brad, no problem, and I'll be able to give you more specifics once I see the property. But I can tell you our commission programs range anywhere from 2% all the way up to 7%. 2% to 7%. Okay, that's the handler. Our commission programs range from 2% to 7%. Now remember, I'm only talking commission if I'm forced to, if they've pressed me, if they've said don't bother coming out unless you tell me your commission. Our commission ranges from 2% to 7%. It depends on the marketing program you choose and the condition of your property and what incentives you might want to offer out to the buyer's agent. All things that we'll cover when I come out. Fair enough? Okay. Now, again, they still may press you. Well, how do I get the 2%? Explain that. Well, if it's all right with you, Brad, this is probably a 15 or 20-minute conversation. Why don't we do it while I'm at the house? We can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And at that point in time, if they still won't let me come out, then I might make the decision to say, you know what, Brad? I appreciate your time. I'm doing my best to serve you, and it sounds like we might not be a good fit, so I wish you the best. All right, so with every objection handler, by the way, I'm going to try to handle the objection 2 to 3 different ways, and if I can't overcome the objection, I'm either A, just going to go blindly and figure it out when I get there, or B, I may cancel on them before I even get to the house, or shake their hand and leave the house. Okay. Don McBride asks, objection, we had a bet. And again, you don't have to write all these down. I realize now you're probably going on to extra paper. We didn't anticipate this many coming in, which we appreciate. And obviously you guys have the recording. You can go back and watch this. I've made that part of the homework assignment anyways. Reason why I'm saying this is because some of these may not apply to you. You may hear an objection from Don here, and you may say, I've never heard that before. I don't need to learn that one, and that's fine. This is not about just mastering every single objection available. I want you to master the ones that you receive the most. So Don McBride, we had a bad experience with the last agent. We're going to leave the home off the market. Well, Don, I can certainly appreciate you taking the house off the market. If I was a seller in your shoes and I had a bad experience, it's probably would be something I would consider as well. And I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing with me, what was it about that experience that was poor? Oh, well, we had, people left the door unlocked, there was no showings, there was no marketing. We just want to stay put. Now, by the way, Don, when you get an objection like that, in most cases, that's a smoke screen. When they say we had a bad experience, we just want to take it off the market, that's not why they're taking it off the market. They're taking it off the market because it didn't sell. They still want to move somewhere. They still have a destination in mind. So my goal when I get objections like that, Don, is as quickly as possible, in that particular case, get through the smoke screen, which is, if you don't mind me asking, what was it that was poor about your experience? And then as quickly as possible, get them talking about where they're going, why they're moving there, where they had their home sold, where they're moving, right into the script. All right, that's a smoke screen. Great one, though. Christian Dreheim. By the way, I might butcher these names. Sorry if I do. I'm just going to hold off on buying or selling until after the election. Just going to hold off on buying or selling until after the election. Well, I can certainly appreciate that, and if I were your shoes, given everything going on in the world today, that might be a consideration of mine as well, right? I'd want to take a look at some certain factors before I make my decision to buy or sell, and if waiting until after the election is one of them, and it's important to you, I'm with you on that. I can totally appreciate that. And knock on wood, I should be in the business, hopefully, after the election as well, and knock on wood again, hopefully buyers will still be buying and sellers will still sell. And if you don't mind me asking, in your mind, what would make it a better time to buy or sell after the election? And meaning, what would have to happen after the election for you to make the decision to make the move? And then shut up. What would have to happen? What would make it better, right? Well, if so-and-so gets elected, then our economy is going to do this. Our economy is going to do that, right? Well, what if the other person gets elected? Let me ask you a question. Have you been paying attention to the elections over the last couple decades? Yeah, because I have. And what I can tell you is in many cases, this is speaking to a seller, in many cases after an election, it is not a great time to sell. Leading up to an election, the economy is usually stronger because they want to get reelected. Once they've been reelected, certain policies change, especially if there's a new person in office. So it might not actually be a better time for you to sell. So when I get this, I want to find out what's going through their head. Why do they feel that waiting until after the election is a benefit to them? So I'll just ask, Christian, if you don't mind me asking, why do you feel that waiting until after the election is going to be a benefit to you? And then just shut up and listen. And then from there, you can drive the conversation. All right, that's a good one. That's a real one. Perfect. Oh, here's great. Here's one. Yep, this one comes up all the time. Since you're making more money by listing my home and finding us a home to purchase, will you cut your commission? You're getting 2 deals out of this. Thank you for the question, Kathy Keenman. Since you're going to be listing my house and helping us find a home, will you cut me a deal? Well, I can certainly appreciate the question, and at the end of the day, you want to net the most out of your sale, and you might want to, get some money to help you with your closing costs when you buy, right? Everybody would love a few extra bucks in their pocket, right? Yeah, that's right. And were you aware, Kathy, that when you sell, you pay a commission, obviously, but when you buy, the seller pays a commission? See, you don't actually pay me anything for my services on the buy side. The seller pays for all of that. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I kind of had an idea that was the case, but I'm wondering if you can give me some of your commission, when you buy, aren't you going to make 3%? Isn't the seller going to pay you 3%? Well, certainly, yes, they are going to pay the brokerage 3%, and I also want to make sure you understand that 3% doesn't go right in my pocket. In your typical sale, if you got a 3% commission, if I'm on a 50-50 split with my brokerage, that means 1.5% to my side. 1.5% minus marketing, minus taxes, minus franchise fees, minus gas, minus time. That doesn't leave me with a whole lot left over, does it? Now, on the buy side, of course, I don't have to market your property, right? I'm just helping you find a home. But in the reality, my time is spent getting you to the closing table. So the nice thing is you don't have to pay anything when you work with me to buy, and we do charge 3% on the sell side. Of course, we have to offer out 3% to the agent that brings the buyer. So you can see why that probably wouldn't make sense for a discount. Does that make sense? And just listen to what they say. Well, so-and-so said they would do it, right? Most cases they'll say, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. But if they say, well, so-and-so said they would do that, so I'm sure this is in the stack somewhere, so let's just handle that one now. Well, so-and-so said they would do this. Well, I can appreciate, that Betty Lou over at ABC Realty offered that to you, and I think Betty Lou's a great agent. I really do, and I'm curious, when she offered that incentive to you, was that something that you asked of her, or did she just offer it? Oh, no, we asked her the same question. We asked if she would reduce her commission if she helped us with both transactions. And I'm curious, when you asked that question, how soon, let's just say it's Betty Lou, how quickly did Betty Lou respond with, yeah, I'd be happy to do that? Oh, she did it right away. I mean, we asked, and she said that she would honor that. In fact, she offered us 1% discount if we also buy through her. Interesting. So she's offering you a 1% discount to earn your business. You asked for it, and she gave it to you within a few moments, right? Yeah. Hey, you know what? Good for Betty Lou. She's a great agent. I don't blame her for doing that. And can I tell you what concerns me about that a little bit, though? Sure, what's that? Well, see, if Betty Lou was that quick to reduce her commission, her broker's commission, her own self-worth to earn your business, how quickly will she be at reducing your home's value when it comes to a negotiation? How fast will she instantly work with the buyer's agent on your listing to say, you know what, they'll take this, let's get this deal done? She's already displaying a lack of strength in her own self-worth. How strong could she possibly be when it comes to standing up to your self-worth? You see the difference? See, I'm a strong agent, and I net my sellers 98% of their asking price, and I sell their homes in an average of 23 days. And I'd be willing to bet my net list price to sales price ratio is probably 1 or 2 points higher than Betty Lou's anyways, because it is usually 2 to 3 points higher than the board. So I tell you what, you can pay me the full commission and still end up netting more because I'm netting you more on your sales price. And I'm fighting tooth and nail to get you the most out of the value of this home. See, if I were weak and I just said, yeah, I'll reduce my fee to earn your business, I'm displaying a lack of confidence in my ability to earn your business. Which means then there's a possibility that I could display that same lack of confidence to a buyer's agent who submits an offer to me on your home and tries to convince me why it's not worth what we have it listed at. You want a strong agent, don't you? Yes, we do. Have I displayed that I can sell your home and I'm a strong agent? You have. Great. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, great one. Next. Okay. Again, some of these I'm going to throw away if I don't think they're super common, all right? So, this is one from, all right, we'll do this one. All right, Stephen, you asked the same question. If you sell the home, okay, good. All right, Stephen Pugh, thank you for this. If your brokerage sells our home and brings the buyer, regardless of the agent within the office, we only want to pay one commission of 3%. All right, that's a pretty common one if you represent both sides. Now, I will tell you, in my experience, within our team, if we represent both sides, we do give them a discount. Speaking of discounts, it's very important that I get this out. This is a great lesson. The most discount we give is a 0.5% discount. We do not instantly go down to that 1%. Everybody always wants to just, 1%. No. We go in increments of a 0.5% at a time. All right, so we're not out there giving 1% discounts. We started at 0.5%. If we absolutely had to on a $1 million property, maybe we would go to 1% if we were forced. But we always start with a 0.5%. So in this question, Stephen, if your brokerage sells our home and brings the buyer regardless of the agent, we only want to pay you one commission. My response to that would be, number one, I appreciate the opportunity to earn your business, and I can kind of see the logic and why you'd think that, because I don't have to share in the commission with someone else. And have you considered the position that puts you in? Great question, Stephen. Let me handle this. Have you considered the position that puts you in? Well, no, what's that? Well, the reality is that if I'm doing twice the work, if I am representing both the buyer and the seller for the same fee as just representing you, then don't you think, whether it's me or another agent, there's probably lesser of a chance that I'm going to be excited about that experience? Don't you think I'm going to want to have another agent on the other side of the transaction if I'm not getting paid on that anyways, right? At 3%, I'm not, or the brokerage isn't getting paid, I'm not getting paid. So the reality is that you kind of take away the excitement of representing both sides. So Stephen, why don't we do this? I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to be fair. I will discount the commission if I do represent both sides, but let's talk about maybe a 0.5% discount. Fair enough? All right, because at some point, it's not going to be exciting for me to represent both sides of the transaction. Okay, let's hear this one. Shelby Brown. All right, great question. I'd rather use someone I don't know so I don't mix personal and professional. Very common objection. We hear that from time to time. I can understand where that would come from. By the way, we have an objection handler for the other side of that, right? We have an objection handler when we're trying to work with a stranger who wants to work with a family and friend, which we covered that on Monday, so hopefully you got that. I'd rather use someone I don't know so I don't mix personal and professional. Understand that, Shelby, and I appreciate, first of all, you at least speaking with me and giving the opportunity to maybe earn your business. And I'm curious, who do you think is going to care about your well-being more? Someone you know or someone you don't know? All things being equal. Who do you think is going to care about your well-being more? A stranger on the street who you don't know or someone who you do know? Think about that for a moment. See, I've known you for 10 years, or I've this, or I've that, and my first instinct is to make sure I do the best by you, because I don't want to hurt our relationship. It's my job to be honest and upfront with you, and at the same time, it's my job to protect you. Because if I don't protect you, I know the risk there. And the risk there is that's going to hurt our personal relationship. That's going to hurt us long term. If I'm just a stranger agent, an agent off the street, or an agent you meet at the open house, yeah, they want to sell the home, they want to make a commission, but do they really care about future business? Do they really care about protecting you like I would, because I want to protect our relationship? Very important that you correlate those two. Great objection. Thank you. Okay, let's hear another one. Got it. Oh, I love this one from Walter Delgado. Thank you very much. You haven't sold in my neighborhood. I'm going with a local realtor. Well, first of all, Walter, I appreciate the opportunity to earn your business, and I appreciate the opportunity to be sitting here with you today, or maybe we're on the phone or whatever it is. And I'm curious, when you say local realtor, what do you mean by that? And I'm curious, when you say local realtor, what do you mean by that? Well, somebody that, their office is in my city, okay? By the way, let's hear this objection again. You haven't sold in my neighborhood. I'm going with a local realtor. Whether we've sold in there or not, that's not what they're saying. They're saying they want someone local. And I need to know what their definition of local is. Okay, this is I want you to write this one down. This is a location objection, and it comes up a lot, especially for those of you who are starting to work markets that you haven't worked before, which we've talked about a lot in this program so far. I'm going with a local realtor. What do they mean by local? So I'll actually ask, Walter, if you don't mind explaining, share with me what you mean by local, because I understand the value in having someone local. I'm not debating that. I'm just curious as to what you mean by that. Well, someone who has an office right here in Plymouth, right? Someone who has an office right down the street. Okay. Someone who has an office near your home. Is that right? Yeah. To me, if they've got an office near my home, then they know my neighborhood. Hey, I don't blame you. If I were in your position and I didn't follow the real estate industry every single day, I would probably believe that too. And there is some truth to that, by the way, Walter. And can I share with you how listing with someone local could actually be a disadvantage to you? Could I share with you how listing with someone local could actually be a disadvantage to you? Now, by the way, they're at shock at this, because it's how could it be a disadvantage? Remember, when you're handling objections, you need 2 or 3 reasons to change their mind. And can I share with you how listing with someone local could actually be a disadvantage to you? By all means. Well, see, the number one question that you should be asking, Walter, is not where is your office located. It should be, what are you going to do to promote my property? And not just to this town of Plymouth, to the entire state of Michigan, to Southeast Michigan, to Metro Detroit, whatever your market is. That's the number one question that you should be asking the agent. Let me ask you a question, Walter. I know you've owned this home for 15, 20 years now. When you bought this house, do you remember how you learned of it? Watch this. Well, yeah, we went into a real estate office in town. In fact, I remember it was on this street or it was on that street. And, we went through a book or we met an agent or whatever. So you walked into a real estate office. Yes, we did. Great. And let me tell you something. 15, 20 years ago, the proximity of the office to the house was hugely important. And can I tell you why that is? Why is that? Because of what you just said. Because if you're going to buy a home here in Plymouth, you're going to walk into a Plymouth real estate office 15, 20 years ago. What do you think people are doing now? Where do you think they're finding real estate now? Online, whatever they say. Correct. Social media, online. They're working with an agent through the multiple listing service. So the value isn't now so much is the office in the backyard. The value is in who's going to promote it to the largest audience. And Walter, going back to my original statement, the farther away an agent's office is, in most cases, the greater the audience size. Can I explain? Sure, why is that? Well, because I can promote your property to Plymouth real estate agents, to Plymouth buyers, to Plymouth consumers, and my office is over here located in Troy, just picking another city in Metro Detroit. And I can also promote it to my agents here in Troy, who, by the way, many times have buyers who move across towns. So you actually have the best of both worlds, because I can promote you here locally and I can promote you to the entire metro area. Many times what we find, Walter, is mom and pop shops, smaller real estate offices that are located right in the community. They're only working with agents right here in the community. They're not actually going across town. You understand that when we advertise across town, we get buyers who say they want to move to this market. We're involved in those transactions where most agents are not. So you can actually see there's actually a benefit to working with an agent who's a little further away. You follow me? Okay, that is a common one. You probably didn't have enough time to write the whole thing down. You're going to have to go back and watch these. Okay, more are coming in. One more is coming. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, I love this one. Julie Schwartz, thank you. This one just came in. We don't want to list our home until we find a new one because we don't want to be homeless. So common. Write that one down. I know you're probably out of room to do so write it down on a yellow pad, type it in your computer. These are great. Thank you for keeping them coming, guys. We don't want to list our home until we find a new one because we don't want to be homeless. Julie, I can certainly appreciate that, and if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't want to be homeless either. In fact, the good news is, of all the buyers and sellers who've worked with me, knock on wood, none of them have been homeless yet. And can I share with you how we do that? Sure, how's that? And then you go into the timing analysis. What is the timing analysis? It's the little timeline at the bottom of the listing plan of action. It's the timeline at the bottom of the buyer plan of action, which are all in the group files. We've covered these in previous sessions, but I'll kind of give you a brief rundown of it. Hey, Julie, here's the good news. None of the clients have worked with us up until this point, knock on wood, have been homeless. And can I tell you how we've been able to accomplish that in this market? Sure, how's that, Jeff? Well, first things first, we make sure that you're armed with a buying power checklist. And in the buying power checklist, we share with you all the things you need to do to get your offer accepted. So unlike other buyers who are working with other agents who have to write 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 offers on a home to get one secured, we're able to secure homes for buyers after only their second or third offer, and sometimes even the first offer they write, because of the buying power checklist. Stepping out of the role play, we've covered this in a previous session, and if not, it's coming up. Yeah, you're right. We're coming up to buyer stuff in a couple more sessions. So number one, that's how we're able to get buyers secured. Number two, we're able to negotiate occupancy so that way you're not moving twice. We're able to negotiate time in the home after closing so that way you're not forced to move. This whole process, Julie, can take up to 90 to 120 days. So the good news is we've got a lot of time. And then from there, I would go into explaining the timing analysis. But it's a very common one. And oh, by the way, if they can afford to buy without selling, then I would ask that question. I would say, have you checked with your lender on whether you can secure a home without selling your first? Because that's really the only way to do it. And of course, 9 out of 10 cannot. 9 out of 10 at least have to sell before they close. But in this particular case, maybe they could qualify for that new home. Now, I will tell you, here's another thing that you can do. Okay, you can make their offer contingent on their home selling or closing. Now, I know it makes their home weaker. You can do, or it makes their offer weaker. There's no doubt about that. But that is another option as well. So hopefully you got 2 or 3 out of that. Thank you for the question. Okay, Amy Knight says, this is probably a for sale by owner. We have a real estate attorney to help us out. I can appreciate that, Amy. Most for sale by owners do have someone they know that's going to help them out with the paperwork. And did you know that most attorneys are qualified in contract law when it comes to real estate? Well, yeah, of course. That's why we would hire an attorney. You're right, absolutely. And did you know that there's no such law as inspection handling law or appraisal handling law or finance issue law? There's really no book on that. You're aware of that, I'm sure, right? Yeah, I mean, I get these are other parts of the transaction. Well, the reason why I bring those up, Amy, is because, remember, you're not hiring me just to do the paperwork. You're not hiring me to find a buyer. You're hiring me to get it to a closing table. And that is the difference between myself and an attorney. An attorney is going to cross T's, dot I's, make sure everything looks great in the contract and everything is all of your interests are protected, which, by the way, we do as well. Okay, and that's included in that 1% per side fee that we talked about. But what an attorney is not going to do is they're not going to handle your inspection issues. They're not going to handle your occupancy issues, your post-closing issues, your financing issues, your appraisal issues, your dealing and negotiating with the co-op agent and lender issues. That's where my expertise comes in. That's what I specialize in. All right, great one. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. I understand this. I list with you as I know you're aggressive, but my cousin's a realtor, so please bring me a buyer instead. Kate, we covered this one on Monday. I appreciate you want to help out your family member. I'd want to help out your family member too. And why don't we do this? I'll tell you what. If you have me out and you like what I have to say, and you say, you know what, Jeff? We love your plan of action. We love your track record. We love everything you're doing. We will make sure your cousin has the first opportunity to sell the house and make the exact same or more than I will make on this sale. Which means then if they bring us a buyer, I'd be willing to even pay them a referral fee. So now they're even making more. Sounds like a win-win, doesn't it? All right. I added that one to it because I didn't share that one on Monday, but that is another one you can use. I'd be willing to pay your cousin a referral fee. Now, what are the chances that the cousin's going to bring the buyer? Slim to none. I've had it happen, actually. I mean, in 18 years, I've had it happen like twice, all right? Or I've had to pay a referral fee to a family member or a friend who actually did end up bringing a buyer. And guess what? They got the commission 3% and they got 25% of my 3%. So they're happy. And I got a listing, and I got a sign in the yard, and I got future clients, and I got future people in the neighborhood. I was able to hold an open house. All right, so that's a good one that I added to that one, all right? My kids are just starting school. Winter is coming. There's just too much going on. We're going to just wait till spring. Nice one, David. Thank you for that. Well, I can appreciate your willingness to wait till spring given everything going on. In fact, if I were in your shoes, it probably would be something that I would consider as well. And I was wondering, do you know what's happening right now in the real estate market? Do you know what's happening right this moment in the real estate market? No. What's that? Well, what's happening right now is because we have such an undersupply of homes for sale. Homes are selling for 10, 12, 15% more than they were selling at this same time last year. So a seller who made the decision to wait until this year and sell right now on a $200,000-$300,000 house is making $20,000 to $30,000 more right this moment. Now, we can't predict how long that's going to last. We can't predict how long the interest rates are going to stay this low. But what we do know is all of the economic indicators, write this down, all of the economic indicators are telling us that things will change as we go into the new year. All of the economic indicators are telling us that things will change as we go into the new year. In fact, we're hearing that interest rates are only going to stay low until the fall. We're hearing that more inventory is going to come on the market. We're hearing that there's distressed sales happening. Commercial leasing rates are down. There's a lot of economic indicators that feed into what's happening in the residential real estate market. And although I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know what's going to happen next year at this exact time. What I do know is homes are selling for $20,000 or $30,000 more since COVID than before COVID. So if you're interested in making a little bit more on your home, it might make sense to consider doing something now. Because what I don't want to have happen, David, is I don't want you to be in a position where you and I are talking next spring or next August and you're ready to pull the trigger and I have to tell you, sorry, it looks like we're going to get $20,000 less than what we would have gotten right now. Brett Hubbs, Jeff, we have your number. We will call you when we're ready. Hey, I appreciate that. And Brett, if it's okay with you, I hear that from people all the time. You know, they're going to let me know when they're ready. And the reality is I appreciate that, and I can't wait to earn your business. And if it's okay with you, Brett, I'd like to display my ability to be a great salesperson in finding buyers for your home by showing that I can follow up on a regular basis. Can I share with you what I mean by that? Sure, what do you mean? Well, what I mean by that is if I follow up with you regularly, then what I'm doing, Brett, is I'm actually displaying my ability to be able to follow up with buyers who inquire on your property. Because guess what? When a buyer inquires on your property, they don't always necessarily decide they want to see it right away. It's my job as a great salesperson to convince them to see your home. And sometimes that takes 2, 3, 4, 5 phone calls, 2, 3, 4 text messages, 2, 3, 4 emails to get them to respond. So by following up with you in a proactive way, I'm displaying my ability in following up with buyer leads for your home. You do want a motivated agent, don't you? Yes, great. Then with your permission, I'd like to continue to follow up with you until you tell me to stop. Fair enough? Write that one down. All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. We're going to use ABC Real Estate Company because they only charge 1%. Another one from Michael Page. Thank you. We're going to consider using this company because they only charge 1%. I'm not going to say the name of the company because we have several people in the program in this company. All right. It doesn't matter what the name is anyways. There's companies out there that charge 1% constantly. Well, I can certainly appreciate that you're considering ABC Real Estate Company because they're only going to charge you 1%. And what I'm really hearing is that you're looking to net the most out of the sale of this home. Is that right? We've covered this one before. Sound familiar? And what I'm really hearing is you want to net the most out of the sale of this home, right? You're considering going with them because they only charge 1%, and that'll put you in a position to net more money, right? Exactly why we're considering going with them. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, number one, to earn your business. And number two, if you're most interested in putting more money in your pocket, my question is, how do you plan on netting more out of the sale of your home by working with a company that specializes in less? Ooh, write that one down. How do you plan on netting more out of the sale of your home by working with a company that specializes in less? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, if it is a company that's out there, boasting or bragging or whatever you want to call it about their discounted services and their discounted fees, how do you specialize in netting more out of the sale of your home by working with someone who's known for discounting? Because if they're discounting their commission, then in many cases, I bet they're probably discounting the sales prices of the homes they sell. Did you know that I'm averaging sellers 98% of their asking price and the board average is 95.5%? That means I'm averaging sellers 2.5% more. So even if I charge them 1 or 2 points more, they're still netting more with me than they would with an average agent. Do you feel that I can sell your home? Sure we do. Great, then let's go ahead and get started. All right, thank you for that one, Michael. Thank you for all of these guys. It's been real fun handling these objections. We are complete on objection handlers. We are done with all of the objections.